All right, Karen, I'm going to have you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, hi. So I'm Karen Corliss. I'm founder of a nonprofit in Longmont, Colorado called imamaker.org. And we are essentially a distributed community service organization for the maker, artist, and DIY community. And we essentially work among maker spaces and among maker organizations and other organizations to produce events. One of our events is the Denver You Fix It, which we do with the Denver Public Library, and it's a free event for anyone to come in and bring their broken item, and then we coach them how to fix it,
Awesome.
which is pretty awesome. Um, and then we host a crappy robot contest. Um,
Yay.
Yay! It's called EvoCon. We've been doing that for a couple of years, and we reach with the Denver You Fix It. We reach adults. With the HeboCon, we reach youth and families, and we encourage the kids in that case to build freely with the junk that we have. So it's basically a giant pile of junk, and we pepper it with wheel type things, and chassis and things like that. But we don't influence how the kids make their robots. And then once they build a robot, they have the option to fight it, sumo wrestle in a ring. So, which is absolutely hilarious. And we've done that for the last 2 years at Steamfest, and we did that at the Maker Faire in 2018. But it's been wildly popular and really fun. We work our butts off, but it's just so much fun.
I've,
So
de-
we do, yeah.
I've definitely seen some footage of some of those bouts, and they're a lot of fun. I showed some to my students last semester as well, because there are a lot of tech folks and engineers, so hopefully some of them will be coming your way.
Awesome. Yeah, we do recruit volunteers from the community, and it's usually whole families will volunteer because the kids can then build robots. Excuse me. We have performers, volunteers, theater folks, everybody who is either a good coach type person or hands-on with like soldering or hand tools or stuff like that. So, and it's really fun. It's really high energy. I will say um, it's an experience, and
Yeah.
the weekend goes quick. But
Yeah, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say we do over 200 battles, uh, and
How?
we get about. It's hard to guess with an event like the larger events, but we probably get 1,000 to 1,200 builders.
Okay.
You know, it just it's just a constant movement and constant bout of crappy robots, and it's so much fun.
That is amazing. How did you, I'm just curious how you got the numbers, like how, with it moving so fast, is it just the folks that are coming through the door or tickets or
Um,
how?
we basically kind of well we track the sumo rounds.
Oh, there.
So we actually have a bracket. We write it down so everybody gets to see their bracket and when they're um, coming up next. So we definitely track those. And then as far as just the amount of toys that we go through, we have done large events in the past, so we kind of have a feel for how many people come through anyway, just naturally, because we've done the larger maker events too. So
Yeah,
just knowing percentage of kids who come through a large event, we probably get 20% of them in ours because we were pretty busy the whole time.
that's awesome. So two things. I was wondering if you could explain a little more for the uninitiated about makers culture, maker spaces, and then also maybe the other thing will come, but let's do that
Okay.
first.
Yeah. So makers are basically, it's hard to define a definition, but it's really anything who creates something from nothing. And that could be a wide range of people and crafts and things, from sewing to electronics to poetry to writing to photography. You're creating something from nothing was there before.
Right.
That's basically the definition. There was nothing there before and you made a thing. So in this community, is I guess I call it a modern maker movement, has been in the last 15 years or so, but we have been makers as a whole since the beginning of time. And the word maker really hasn't come into the mainstream vernacular until recently, but still a large majority of people are like, what's a maker? you know.
Right.
So, and I know we get it all the time, and so we try to explain it in general terms, and then they realize, oh, I do that. You know? So, oh, that's me. I'm like, yeah, it is you. And then I give them a sticker and say, you're a maker. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a
Yes.
maker. It's just a really fun interaction that people get to realize that, oh my gosh, I cook. I'm a maker, you know. So
Yeah.
it's super fun.
And so it reminds me too, like there's a lot of movements. I mean, maker spaces obviously have been around for a while in this culture. My brain just split into 15 parts. So like
So
some
I
of the
could
things.
describe the maker spaces we have some local
Yeah.
maker spaces in the Denver area if you kind of want me to go.
Actually,
There.
that would be really amazingly helpful, because I think like more folks should definitely know about this.
Yeah. So I guess the maker spaces, I think we have 6 in the Denver area.
Mm-hmm.
And the first ones were starting around 2008, 2009.
Okay.
And this is where people gathered together, and they said literally around the table. I think one of them started in the Netherworld. I think it's 14th and Penn, where they were sitting around a table just like, hey, we like to do things. Do you want to get together and do more things? Sure, let's do things. And then they're like, wait, we need a place to do things. So, and that's literally how these things evolved. And this happened over and over the last 10 years in Denver, where we have a Denver makerspace. There's one in Boulder, there's one in Longmont, there's Loveland, Fort Collins, and Broomfield.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you stretch down the Front Range, Colorado Springs has a makerspace, and then across the state there's also community makerspaces. But they are becoming more and more popular, especially in libraries.
Yes, I've noticed that.
Yep. So, and the libraries, especially, they're offering these service and tools for free.
Mm-hmm.
So I would encourage everybody to check out their local library if they're not ready to jump into one of the local community spaces. So I know in this challenging time, it's a little bit difficult. A lot of the libraries are closed. So we're trying to keep connected virtually through Slack channels, through Facebook, and just keeping in touch with everybody to see how they're doing. But the maker spaces have the tools. They have, CNC machines. They have 3D printers.
Mm-hmm.
They've got sewing machines and electronics benches and all sorts of crazy stuff. I think, vacuum former, injection molding machine. It depends on each space. Kind of has a different.
I checked out pre-COVID a recording studio, and it had everything we needed.
Yeah.
And then some.
Yep.
And then catty corner from that, there was a whole space with all kinds of tools and amazingness. And I thought that was pretty great. Especially in the library setting, because they receive funding. So like I've noticed there is a difference between like maker culture and kind of the more monetary based kinds of things that are adopting some of the culture of maker spaces. And so I don't know how to form a question around that, but like my brain is kind of forming an archy bridge between like the spirit of maker culture, and then when it becomes like capitalism, and then how the libraries are caught on too and are able to actually have those supplies and tools for folks. And I think a lot of people don't know about it.
There's kind of a mishmash line there, because makers, I would say, and I keep calling it the modern maker movement, it's really about doing the thing. It's not selling your thing.
Right.
And it's about the passion you have for making a thing. And these community maker spaces have popped up around that passion and not around, hey, I'm going to make a thing to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but over the years, it's kind of that seller for-profit thing is kind of mashed with the nonprofit. And then there's that's where the different types of spaces come from, because now you have fab labs, now you have incubators, now you have a hybrid machine manufacturing, small batch manufacturing / maker space. So from a technical perspective, if you're a nonprofit, you can't actually manufacture anything out of your space. So
gotcha.
technical thing where now you've got the hybrid of the Fab Labs coming in, and now you have a weird business model. But that's beside the point of the culture shift, where I know in Denver we have a very, very strong community-based maker community, where it's not focused on, you know, creating a product, developing the next, you know, iPhone or anything like that. It's very much about community and connecting with each other and saying, hey, do you see this thing? You know, oh wow, that's weird. Let's try that. You know, it's very experimental. Entrepreneurial is the wrong word. It's experimental. Entrepreneurial would be, hey, you know, let's go get funding for this project. That's completely different than where I'm seeing the maker movement is as a community.
And I've definitely seen at least one space that was trying to implement like everything from starting with maker culture and having all the tools and everything there for folks. And then also having folks in-house who had patent knowledge and like, so, you know, they were heading towards that entrepreneurial based thing, but I think it failed. I think it collapsed. And I'm just wondering if that is typical.
You know, I don't really know.
Without saying it specifically.
I will say that I know there are for-profit spaces, community maker spaces that have failed because they were allegiant to different values, I guess, than what the maker community is about. And they put in a good effort, but I think they're misguided is a strong word, but I don't really
I think that's a good word.
But you know, misguided around what the maker community is about.
Right.
We, you know, meaning our nonprofit is very tuned into making sure it's a community-based organization, community, and not, you know, we don't have people coming in from the outside saying, hey, we can make money off of your makers. We're like, whoa. You know, that's not why we're here. So, yeah, we're very sensitive to things like that. And, you know, it's not that we're stewards, I guess, of the movement. We don't have nonprofit I work for, it doesn't have a brick and mortar maker space. We're not a maker space. We're kind of in between. So, but we're also hypersensitive to, you know, the community, the health of the maker community, I guess.
Yes. And that was the other question that I wanted to ask. There's this 3-letter, it starts with community support. And so like, I am curious about how y'all have created like this very strong foundation of community supported action.
I guess being real, listening. I mean, just being a person, you know, being human and having no ulterior motives, and just really the desire to connect with people and to understand what they're making and just get passion with them. Where, I mean, we always empathize with the maker, like, oh my God, that's so cool. You know, so and it just blows every other, you know, professional thing out of the water. So it's like, oh my God, that's so cool. Tell me more. You know, so it's just that conversation and, you know, meeting people in their space, like not trying to maneuver the conversation to certain directions. Like, what is your thing? Tell me about your thing, and really listening to people.
That's so great. I've been doing a lot of kind of sensitivity reading, and I feel that those are the first 2 things that we should do more. And first and foremost is listening and acknowledgement. And that I feel like those pieces are so often missing from everything from like customer service. I experienced that today with the phone company, to like, I'm like, look, I just need you to listen and I need to be heard right now. Are you hearing me? Mooch with the phone company, by the way. But like, I think our culture just needs the listening and the acknowledgement, and also definitely the passion. There's always like this kind of laissez-faire attitude towards anything anyone else is doing, because like maybe some company's doing it, or they're gonna like co-opt it and make it into a thing or something. That's very frustrating.
I was gonna say, the co-op word that you use, co-opting a community or something like that. Again, that's a very sensitive topic.
I know.
I know. It's like, wait, we have this really great community. Now let's sell shit to them.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, no, I'm sorry. I hope I didn't say shit, but
no, it's
like,
real though. That's why I wanted to talk with you, because I am very interested in community-based everything, and especially in this time when hopefully we are seeing the death roads of so many things, and part of it is because there's been this certain structure set in place that makes it almost impossible to be community based and to do things with our hands and to learn things and interact with each other. Like, I feel like all of these things are being taken away. And so that's why this is very interesting to me.
Yeah. The maker spaces, I guess, in this in the current environment we're in, they're still there. The members are still there. They're you know, not necessarily open to the public, but they're open
Sure.
for their members, and they're still able to use the tools and you know, connect with each other. And as I guess our you know, our organization, we're just kind of there to say, hey, are you talking to them? I heard that they need something. You guys should talk to each
Yes.
other. You know?
Yes.
And there's no ulterior motive. It's just like, hey, we know a thing that you might help you.
Yeah.
And we're that kind of back and forth on that. And we kind of push people together, like, hey, maybe you should talk to this person.
I love that so much. I feel like so many, that's something that I've always craved to see, even just in the writing community. Sometimes our art community, like you see all these different groups, and sometimes you're a bridge and you're like, oh, there are all these things that these other people have to offer. And sometimes they don't hear that. But so it's really cool to hear that that is happening somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not, I mean, the maker community is not kind of out there in the media necessarily. We're just
Right.
kind of doing our own thing, you know, and, you know, surviving by the power of the community.
And what would be, so I have two other questions. Like, how did you get involved in the capacity you're in this community?
So I guess it was 2011 or so.
Mm-hmm.
I got laid off from my job. And then I'm like, oh, I didn't really like that anyway. You know, um,
I'm free.
I'm free. So I've been following kind of the modern, I would call it the modern maker movement with Make Magazine and all that. And um, I always felt with that community, it was just, you know, becoming really popular, that I wasn't a maker,
Mm-hmm.
because I wasn't building robots.
Okay.
And I wasn't, you know, playing with Arduinos and things like that. I was sewing. So,
Okay.
you know, I'm a sewist. So I was looking at this community, and I was like, oh, I'm not really a maker. But then, you know, I kind of was wondering, well, you know, no, I am a maker, and there's a lot more people who are a maker, and that's where the name I'm a maker came from. It's just like, you know, I'm a maker, darn it, you know. So, and then this whole thing started, and then very soon after that, I met someone in the community who wanted to start a maker fair.
Uh-huh.
So the two of us did that, and we got a whole team together, and we did in the Denver area. I think there were 8 between the Denver Maker Fair and the NoCo Maker Fair, and then in between that, there's a Boulder group that started. Colorado Springs had a maker fair, so we kind of got engrossed in this whole modern maker community. And here I am declaring, I still sew. You know, I'm a maker. I really, really am, and I want to be recognized as a maker. So that's
Yes.
kind of where all this blossomed then with I'm a maker, because we try to reach people who maybe don't think they're a maker and offer them resources, you know, if they so choose to want to delve into different areas, and we help them with resources. So really it was about reaching people who maybe were not sure they were a maker, or didn't know what making was, or realized that, hey, you know, I'm looking for a community. Like, I do these things, but I'm kind of out here by myself, you know. And it's, I guess, giving the resources to the people who want it. We're not forcing anything on anybody, but it's just like, hey, these things are here for you. If you
Awesome.
want to sew, there's libraries, there's maker spaces, there's other things, there's resources online, there's us, people, people one-on-one. And then with the events, we had people, new makers say, wow, I never knew this existed. This is actually a thing. So, and yeah.
What else do they I'm going to open up the question a little bit. What's the importance of modern maker culture?
I think one of the main things is giving yourself permission to do something, and realizing that there is equipment, tools, and people and resources that will lower that barrier for you, and connecting people together and saying, wow, there's I messed up on that, or I don't know how to do this thing, can anybody help? And then you've got 10 people, so here, this is what we did. So I think the big thing is that, maybe, I was missing, coming from a very strong corporate background for many, many years. And I was laid off. I'm now back in corporate, but now I have a much more balanced life. But I find that in my early days of corporate life, it was 10-hour days, 5, sometimes 6 days a week. I'd come home exhausted and I'd barely have time to like vacuum or do anything. So, and I think that's missing a lot in a lot of people's lives, where they think that they have to do, they're obligated to do things they're not able to play.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not able to say, oh, I'd really like to make a necklace. How do I do that? They're so concerned, oh, I got to do the dishes, or I got to make dinner every night. And so there's obligations versus being able to give yourself permission, and it kind of takes you away from the daily grind of just your obligations, I guess. So I guess there's kind of a mental health, for me anyway, a mental health component to it, where this takes me away, and you're engrossed in something, you're hyper focused in something, and you realize, wow, I just did something, so I just made something.
Right. And like, that's a certain kind of magic, right? Like, we live in a society that keeps us on the wheel. So like, instead of making that necklace that we would rather have with the cool beads we found or that were passed down or whatever, we buy something that maybe we don't quite like as much on Etsy or wherever, which is cool too, because most of the time you're supporting folks who are also making things. But like, what what is that magic of like doing something yourself and making it with your own brain and body?
I guess being in control. I don't know, maybe it comes down to control and just the passion to be able to do something, and the tools are becoming more and more available where you can do that from home. You don't have to purchase expensive equipment. There's desktop equipment, there's makerspace, there's libraries that you can go to use the tools.
Mm-hmm.
And having that be accessible, and then just feeling of accomplishment. It's like, wow, I was able to do this. And I think that's important too. We're like in this consumerism world where it's like, I just want a thing, let's go get it. It's instantaneous gratification. Maybe it counters that instantaneous gratification where you dive deep into a subject and you really, really learn it, or learn the process. And then you now have a new skill. I mean, everything you make, you now have built that skill set, and you now learn something.
And
so, I don't know if that's magic or that's...
Well, yeah, I know. Like, I just like to throw that word around. That I think that's so great. And I can't remember what the other thing I was going to say. But what are some ways that folks support the community? Like, how do you say get miscellaneous parts for crappy robots?
So I guess as far as supporting supporting the events. I mean, donations, of course. There's we're trying to, this is a funny story. We're trying to avoid being the electronics recycler.
Ooh, yeah.
Because we do have a lot of donations that come in and people are like, hey, will you take this television off our hands? Does it work? No. We really can't do that. We would have to then pay to dispose of it.
Right.
But we do have donations. We do also, purchase as far as the crappy robot stuff from, thrift stores, and we get individual donations, and we save, food containers and things like that. And, we have, you don't see the mass of stuff that we have beyond the screen.
I know. I think we're both doing the same thing.
It would be amazing. You would be amazed. Oh my God. Boxes over there, key boy over there. But we are our own kind of storage place and collector. With HeboCon, we collect all year round. So we just try to, and it's also kind of it's a recycle upcycle thing too, because now every time I use a big thing is like the coffee containers. I used to just throw it away. Now I'm like, wait, no, that would make a good wheel.
Yes.
That would be a great wheel. And all these, we've got these, we're making masks right now, and sewn face coverings, and we're using twill tape, elastic, and all this stuff. So I have, I don't know, 30 empty spools of, I don't know if you can imagine a giant spool of something, and I'm just thrilled to death that some kid's gonna make a crappy robot out of that.
That is cool. That is so cool. I've seen some miscellaneous gadgets made at it was 2 Octobers ago. Was it the Maker Faire? Is that what we were doing?
There was a Maker Faire in 2018, and then every year before that, to 2013 to 2018, there was a Maker Faire in Denver.
Yeah. I remember one kid came back like 4 or 5 different times with a new thing each time, and he was so stoked. It was the cutest thing. I still have a bell he made out of a doorknob that he gave me. Because he came to the Cabal Gallery table to paint also.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, and that was a really fun thing. I was just like, oh, I want to go put things together. I want to go do
that. Freeform. That was kind of the point of it. It's like you have control over what you make, and we try to put that into every event that we have. Like, you have complete control. We'll give you some tools and hints and things, but it's yours to make.
Yeah. That's so neat. Yeah. Well, do you have anything else to add, or?
I don't know. I guess we're trying to adjust to having no in-person events. I guess that's been kind of a bit of a shock, because we were so one-on-one focused. We were so hands-on focused and being person to person and really sharing experiences. So that's been a little bit of a struggle. So we're trying to kind of do things, get people together online, plan for the future, and perhaps make kits to hand out. I know there are some art street festivals starting to do limited festivals, and they're handing out kits. So we're just trying to see how we can support that, and then do something, especially with it's hard to serve a community that not everybody is online,
right?
So because we realize part of our mission is to reach people who may not have internet access. So it's been kind of a struggle. It's been like, oh, how do we reach these people? So and I've been going back and forth with the Denver Public Library a little bit on this, to see if there is something that we can offer, info packets or something where you have a little kit where you can make it at home. So we're trying to come up with different things to still serve the making community. But it's been a challenge, I guess, like everybody else. It's like, oh my gosh, everything just stopped.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
It's been a challenge.
It's like, now what do we do?
Oh, yeah.
I always think of Doctor Who, especially the David Tennant ones, and how he's always like, you humans are very curious. Like, you'll be like, at the butt crack of destruction. He doesn't say it that way, but at the butt crack of destruction, and you just you just figure out a way. You're so resilient. You're a little dumb, but you're also very resilient. Like, you know, maybe kind of like a pigeon or something, but a little smarter sometimes.
Yeah.
But like, you know, like that's the coolest thing is like, I think at the beginning of, you know, the shutdown of everything pretty much and the definite slow, you know, it felt like everything stopped and it was just like, oh crap, what do we do? Like, this is definitely a case of the first flip in time. And like what do we do? But at the same time, then people start like getting out of the fog and like, well, I mean, you know, we're curious little humans and we're not going to stop. So we're going to figure out some other way. And that, for me, seeing that and feeling that and experiencing that has been such a great boon. It's just like, I think there are a lot of folks who are very resigned, or they want the old way, which was broken anyway. But like, it's really cool to see folks saying and realizing they want to do something different, you know, everything from gardening to like breaking out their old bead box, you know, like whatever it is. And that is really flipping cool. And I don't know, that's the world I want to live in. I don't want to live in a world where, you know, stuff is engineered to break after a certain amount of time and I don't know how to fix it. And then I just have to spend more money to,
So,
are you guys connected with that movement? I forget what it's called. Like where
the fix it or the which
yes, I think so.
There is I guess an iFixit. I don't know if it's called the iFixit movement, but there is an organization iFixit that you know has promoted YouFixits across the whole world, really. And the Boulder YouFixit clinic emerged, I guess it was probably 5 or 6 years ago, and we in the last 2 years, or I guess year or two, we volunteered with them and say, hey, we really need one of these in Denver.
Yes.
So that's how the Denver YouFixit came about. We did that. The months are getting mishmashed, but I guess it's 6 months ago now. We hosted the first one in October at the Denver Public Library, and we had 50, 60 people come through because it was new. It's like, oh my gosh, I have a broken lamp. I can't, I don't want to throw it away. Not only that, I don't want to throw it away. I don't want to put it in a landfill. And I can't buy a new lamp. Like, it has to work, so, and it makes just complete sense to say, let's see how to fix it. And the way that coaching works for the Fix It in particular is that we guide the owner of the product through the process. So we'll say, well, what do you think about this? I mean, we don't always know the answer though. The funny thing is, it's like, let's just take this apart
and see how it works.
See how this works. And then that's the little trade secret of the You Fix It. It's like, boy, we don't really know how to fix this either, but but we're going to find out. So, usually starts with ripping something apart. And there are some typical things, which I'm still learning myself. The Boulder You Fix It crew, it's just amazing. They've been doing this for years, and we rely on them to kind of train us on how to identify things. Because, people bring in the tablets and cell phones. When You Fix It, we had 3 espresso machines.
Holy cats!
Not 1, not 2, not 3 espresso machines. And we happen to have the Boulder You Fix It, an espresso machine expert, because they've been doing this forever. But yeah, it's a whole movement, and it really it's loosely tied to, depending on who you talk to, the right to repair movement.
That's
where we have we purchase a product, we assume we own that product. But if for some reason, especially larger industrial products and things like that, where you're tied to that company for life because you now have to purchase a service agreement, they basically black box their brain of that machine or that product. And if you go in there to do anything, they void your warranty. And that's kind of what we like to do anyway. We like to void warranties because we like to get in there and see how it works. Right. Like, oops,
and we should have that. That should be a right.
That should have that ability to do that. And that's what's been excuse me. And I'm getting excited about this. So I just,
I talked with my students about this because I was like, I found out about all these light bulbs that have been around for more than 100 fucking years.
yeah,
What? And then
right.
and then I went down this wormhole and I'm like, the refrigerators, my computer, this fucking pen, like all of the things are engineered to
Right.
last so long, and it's
I
bullshit.
know. You know, it's funny because I'm a trained mechanical engineer. So that is my day job. So I know exactly where this is coming from. And I feel, yeah, I work in manufacturing, and it's consumer products, so it's not necessarily hard goods, but I'm familiar with how manufacturers think on,
Right.
a lot of them make money off of spare parts. And I can't say that I haven't seen evidence of this, of purposely designing something, to fail, but I have seen evidence of, boy, this, we can only design so far, otherwise it'll cost $1 million.
Huh.
But we
Okay.
now make up the difference on spare parts.
Okay.
And that's where I can go off on this for a while, but um,
I'm
maybe,
interested in this talk. I might be showing if I teach that class again, I'll be like, hey guys, I
hey
talked to
guys.
an expert.
But so whole business models of manufacturers are based on spare parts.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you, my first, again, I can go on forever, but my very first job as a mechanical engineer was to re-engineer products so I can make the spare parts at the shop instead of having to order them from Germany.
Right.
Because at that time, it took 6 weeks to get anything. So if something failed on a machine, you're like waiting for 6 weeks. So my very first job, my very first project, and my very first job was to CAD up basically all the spare parts that would break so we could make them in house.
That's pretty great though. That's really fantastic too. To know that that's possible.
It's possible. Well, with machining, metalworking, stuff like that, it's possible, more possible than say custom castings and electronics types of things that are very specific to certain brain, meaning control system.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's a whole industry based on spare parts and things having to be replaced from a parts perspective, and things failing and then having to buy new, and it's super frustrating.
This reminds me of the whole respirator situation. Volunteers were called to make parts for respirators on their 3D printers.
Yep.
And unduly got I don't know if you're able to talk. Are you able to talk about that a little bit?
I don't know too much about it. I can tell you, as far as the regulatory aspect of it, or
Well,
just liability, maybe, or
yeah, maybe that's what it is. I thought I saw something on your page passing on the information for folks with the tools and skills to be able to donate their time and efforts towards that making respirator parts.
So I know there's the big push for PPE made by homemakers was for face shields. It had less liability associated with it, and there was a wide need for it. It's one of those things that nobody really knew about until 4 months ago. I'm like, oh, we can make this at home. So, and a lot of maker spaces, that's where most of the maker PPE movement started, was largely with face shields. And it became more complicated because all of that equipment is essentially medical device.
Right.
And medical device needs FDA approval, it needs other approvals, it needs testing.
Okay.
It needs to be cleaned, it needs to have procedures, SOPs for making it, and then wrapping it, packaging it, shipping it. So there's all these things. If you're looking at it from a medical device perspective, makers are like, oh, I made it in my basement, I'm just going to give it to my neighbor, and they became this kind of this, we've overcome it though, because there are organizations like local organization, Make for COVID was one of the ones who are like, okay, we need to get this vetted by our medical providers, and and get it tested locally and get it tested from actual regulatory tests. So through CSU, we were able to do that locally. It was really, that was the organization I was part of, or currently am part of, to make face shields and other PPE and sewn masks. But they were very hyper concerned, and they had the resources to be able to do the testing. So
That's so cool.
It was a big deal to do no harm, basically taking an oath as a pop-up organization, you know, in mid-March, you know, do no harm. We're trying to supply our medical professionals who don't have the PPE, and we can't do them harm either. So we need to make sure these are vetted. So those, you know, that was hyper important. So
that is so cool, and thank you very much for sharing that. I wasn't sure how to like ask that question, and I knew there were holes in my understanding of it too. So that's really cool to know, and it's really inspiring too that is possible.
Yeah. In a short time, there were approvals happening through the community, and you know, it was a one-on-one. A lot of it was a one-on-one with the hospitals or the doctors and saying, yes, I'll accept that. But then there were national testings that, you know, we were able to do and get I want to say certification stronger, but we were able to get the testing results and then be able to show that to our providers and say, yes, this is what you'll get with this. So
very cool.
But yeah, from a maker community, that was really kind of innovative, because, you know, makers are used to I'll just pop out 10 of these, and, you know, and it really kind of, here I go with the manufacturing again.
Oh, go ahead.
But you know, it really highlighted the concept of distributed manufacturing, because you are technically a manufacturer, because you need to have quality, you need to package it, you need to label it, you need to do the quality, the medical testing. So all of a sudden, makers became this giant network of distributed manufacturing. So we were essentially one giant manufacturing company that needed the SOPs and to operate under. So it was this really, really interesting evolution that popped up overnight. And I think it gave everybody an appreciation for the power of that movement. I mean, the absolute power of the maker movement was that we have people in their homes, their basements, their garages, making things, and the processes were put in place to be able to get that to the right customer, the right end user. So it was really, I've got goosebumps. I get excited about this stuff, because I think it's important, because we were really saving lives. I mean, we were able to do that as a whole community globally, really, come out of our basements and homes and say, we can do this. And, you know, as a stopgap measure, and we did it. We did it. We're doing it. We're still doing it. So we're still doing it.
Well, what are ways people can support your efforts? And actually, I guess I should ask first, because you did say it's not an absolutely open community, and I understand the reasons. I think I understand some of the reasons why this is. So like my first question would be, like, if folks were interested in becoming a member, how would they go about that?
So, so there's, as far as a nonprofit, we don't have a membership, at least at this time. The membership would come when you become a member of a makerspace, for example. And the makerspaces in town, usually once they get going again, they have a open house, you know, Tuesday, Saturday, or whatever, and usually just kind of go in and see if you know, if you like the tools, you like the people. But we're also looking at kind of an overall membership that gets you access to a lot more things.
Cool.
So across different spaces and things like that. So that's kind of, it hasn't been formulated fully yet. But in the meantime, people can follow, you know, I'm a Maker on the Facebook page. It's imamaker.org, facebook.com/imamaker.org. It's I'm a Maker on Twitter. I'm Maker Karen on Instagram. You can also join a lot of things. Meetup. So on meetup.com, we have the group Denver Area Factory Tours. You can join that. And then the group called Volunteer Maker Corps. which is fun. And all of this we were doing. Volunteer Maker Corps was, we're going to go to Habitat, we're going to help paint someone's house as a group. So as well as, helping with events and things. So it was really kind of a community type of thing where you could learn a skill. So, and then I think I got all of the things. Yeah.
And if you'd be willing to send them to me, I can jot
Yeah.
down all the ones that you said.
Okay.
And if folks wanted to donate to I Am a Maker or other maker spaces, what are some of the things that folks are actually looking for that would be helpful and wouldn't just, make more work for y'all?
Oh, yeah.
Or cost.
I guess, as far as donations, maker spaces do see donations of all sorts of things. A lot of times they'd like to have something working,
Right.
or some materials, or hand tools or things like that. But or there's, financial donations that reach out to your local maker space. I occasionally share things on the I'm a Maker Facebook page where you can donate to a particular cause.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, I don't know, it's kind of a one-on-one thing. We're not like blasting out there, donate to our yearly campaign. Like we just we don't have that. But maybe we should,
I think I've seen like something like hundreds of rubber duckies or something before that someone had.
Oh, yeah.
Was that what it was?
I saw something like that. Yeah, but So of course, to I'm a Maker, we will take broken toys. In this case, we will take broken things. If it's broken toys, it could be even electronics toys and things. But you can. We will take almost anything unless it's high, hazardous or needs,
Right.
high level electronics recycling that we can't do, because we do have other events that we use those with a take apart, and there's other things. We basically accept our donations and make a class out of it. So
I love that.
That's kind of how we do. Like, bring it on. We'll now we'll now host an event with rubber duckies, or something. Whatever it is we have. That's how we ended up with the HevoCon. Man, we got a bunch of junk. What can we do with this? So yeah, excuse me. There's lots of ways to connect online on Instagram, Twitter, and if you just Google I'm a Maker, you can Google my name. My name, Denver, I'm a Maker. You'll see a bunch of stuff and kind of plug in where you feel, where is of interest on what platform, or email Karen at imamaker.org.
Awesome. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we close it up?
I love seeing you. Thank you.
Thank you. I know it's
great
been a while.
See you. I like being the bandana
This
sisters.
is crazy. Yeah, we're like all matching. By the way, we did not plan this. We did not plan this. It just happened. We definitely got the memo. So
yeah, right.
Awesome.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you so much. This has been a really great talk, and I know I've learned a lot, and I'm really excited about it too. Let me know if there's ways I can support as well.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to close this up.